This is going to be a fun one, guys. So, like I tell my kids, get in, sit down, buckle up, let's go. I'd like to welcome to the podcast today, Zachary Christensen. He's a vice president over at Centrix Energy, and excited to have you on. Welcome, Zachary.
Thank you, Rex. Pleasure to be here. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I understand you got this big connection to the Aggies down there, and so we'll tell that story. So, before we get started on what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, as far as what you guys are doing as a company, I'd like you to kind of tell us a little bit about Zachary and how'd you get where you are today? Because people don't just fall out of the sky and end up at their companies, right? So there's always a backstory. So did you, like, as a youth, now again, you don't have to go back to I exited the hospital in my parents' arms. We don't have to go that far back. But tell us a little bit about you growing up and your schooling, and then just we'll kind of hopscotch through how you got to where you are.
Certainly, yeah, and thank you again. I didn't ever plan on being in this segment of the industry at all. I grew up kind of all over Texas. We moved a lot, but I was born in Provo and quickly moved to Texas after my parents divorced and lived with my grandfather. My grandfather is this old Aggie class of '52 who was a dentist. And back then, they were all in the army, right, in the
You're
armed
right,
force
right.
if they went to A&M. So he was this old, army dentist, and growing up with him, I figured I was going to be a dentist of all things. So, yeah, much less time off in my current configuration than that could have been. But as my mom remarried, and my new family kind of made their way through life, and my stepdad was in midstream oil and gas. And so, and there's a crazy story in there somewhere if you want me to tell that. But as we were growing up, I saw a bunch of pipeline work and stuff like that, like liquefied petroleum gas transportation and things of that nature. And that was in my middle teenage years. And so, I guess the story, if you want me to tell it here,
Yeah,
was
I want
yeah,
to hear it.
we lived in a place called Brenham, Texas. If you know Bluebell ice cream, that's where
I
Bluebell comes from.
You're talking to somebody who's been there many times, because when I used to sneak my way over from Austin to Houston, I would take a little bit of a detour just to run through there.
Worth it. Totally worth it.
That's
Yeah. So
right.
so we lived there for just about a year actually, and during that year, my stepdad was with this certain company, and so LPG is transported and then stored in these big caverns. So they call them salt domes because they're inert, and you can store the gas in there without any kind of reaction happening.
Right.
This actually was a horrible tragedy, but one day one of these salt domes leaked the LPG out. I think it was overnight, and it all gathered in this valley. And so the next morning, someone was just driving through it and ignited that cloud.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, I mean, it killed several people. And my memories of it were my sister and I waiting for the school bus, and the whole place, like the whole city, just shaking, like an earthquake, right?
Right.
Um, and it became this just big, big explosion that killed several people and leveled, a bunch of trailer parks and stuff like that out in the country. And so that was, I guess, my first, recognition of the energy industry was that.